I think, is this, am I in focus? Focus. Can you see the cat in the frame? I don't think so. I can't see because that thing is in the way. I don't even know. All right. I'm going to teach you how to make a dice bag. These dice bags are fully reversible, which I'm not gonna show you right now because all my dice would fall out, but it's lined and it's fully reversible. And right now I have like 3.5, maybe 4 complete sets of dice in this bag for D&D, and as you can see, it fills half of it. It's a nice weight, it's a nice texture. So yeah, these dice bags, pretty simple. I would say the skill level that you need for sewing these dice bags would be beginner. Like, you just need to know how to sew and use your sewing machine and the basics of that, and you can make this bag. So even if you don't really know how to do a lot of expert sewy things, trust me, you can do this bag, because I am not an expert seamstress. That's for damn sure. Right, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that you need is you need some sort of sewing stuff. So you need a sewing machine, or you need needle thread, and well, if you have a sewing machine, you still need thread. But yeah, so some sort of sewing equipment. I'm gonna assume that you have that. I'm also gonna assume you have scissors. I'm just not gonna list that kind of stuff, because yeah. All right, for the dice bags themselves, you're gonna need fabric. I went ahead and I like to make my dice bags have different fabric for the liner and for the outside. So I use 2 different types of fabric for both. I also just use quilter's cotton for the most part. Like for these dice bags, which are for Dice Masters, I just use quilter's cotton. And I got some really nice pattern quilter's cotton for like the Dice Masters theme, superhero theme, but the inside is just like the super cheap quilter's cotton squares, which you can get for like $1.50. You can often find them on sale for like $1. It's really cheap. Whatever fabric you want, just go ahead and get fabric. You don't need a lot. You could probably get away with just half a yard, which is the smallest that you can buy. Or like I said, I just use the quilter's squares thing, and one of those squares will actually make you a dice bag. But if you want 2 different types of fabric, you're gonna need 2 squares. Then you need some sort of cord. I use paracord in this tutorial, but you can use like any nylon cord, drawstring, shoelaces, yarn, whatever kind of string stuff you have. So you don't need a lot. You only really need like, I don't know, 18 inches. I don't really measure scientifically. I just measure eyeballing it. Hey, do not play with Surge Protector. It will not play fetch with you. It will just electrocute you. First step is you need to cut your fabric. So you need to cut 2 8 by 12 inch pieces of fabric, and it's pretty straightforward, and you can just do that, and there you go, 8 inches by 12 inches. Woohoo, we're done! Okay. Your next step is you're going to fold those fabrics. So I guess this is called hamburger style, I'm not really sure, but go ahead and fold your 2 pieces of fabric into 2 hamburgers. So you're gonna be folding so that they be turned into 8 by 6 inch pieces, if that makes sense. When you're folding your hamburgers, make sure that if your fabric has a fancy cool pattern on it, that fabric is on the inside of your fold. This fancy cool side in sewing terms is called the right side, and the other side, which looks weird and wrong, is well called the wrong side. So when you fold your fabric, if it does have a fancy pattern and it has a noticeable wrong and right side, you want the wrong side to be on the outside. This is super important to making your bag look right, and if you mess this up, you basically will destroy everything and you'll be sad later. So don't mess this part up. Once you have your 2 hamburgers, you're going to pin them. Each piece of fabric is going to be pinned separately. So first you're just going to pin along the bottom. The bottom of your bag is going to be one of the 6 inch sides. So pick whichever one you like, I guess, and then pin along it. And then just pin along the other open side. You're not actually going to pin all the way to the top of the side, not all the way to the 8 inches. Actually, what you're going to do is you're going to pin to about 3 inches from the top. So you want 3 inches of the top to be unpinned. And that will be explained in a second. Look, here we go. We're gonna explain it right now. So what you're gonna do is you're going to measure 2 inches down from the top along that unpinned edge that I was talking about, and you're just gonna make a little pencil mark. I cheat here because this fabric is kind of cheap and whatever. You need to make a mark on both sides of the fabric, so I cheat and don't measure on the other side. I only measure on one side, and then I just like eyeball it for the second side, and that works because this is like not expert DIY-ish. This is me DIYing, which means, well, this is mostly half-assed. So here we go. Okay. So once you mark that, you're going to like fold a lapel. So you're gonna fold it back once, and then you're gonna roll it back again. And you want it to kind of not be, you want it to be, I guess, an acute angle. Look at that, I'm bringing geometry into this. You don't want it to be a very wide opening. You want it to be narrow, kind of like the lapels of a jacket. basically, which is why I call this a little bell. So you're gonna fold it once, then you're gonna fold it twice, and then you're gonna pin it down. You can use an iron to press this if you want to make the seam nice, but I don't do that because I'm lazy and I couldn't find my iron. So there you go. You're gonna do this to both sides of your fabric, to both pieces of your fabric. So you're gonna end up making a total of 4 lapels. So video magic, let's just do that. Da, 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 da. Yay! Okay. Once you've pinned down all 4 of these things that you're doing, you're just going to sew down those edges. So what you're gonna do is you want to sew basically as close to the outside edge as you can. It doesn't need to be scientific, you don't have to be exact. And one of these I like sew straight up the middle. Doesn't really matter. You just need to make sure that you get these nice and secured from basically the top to the bottom of the fold. Doesn't need to be exact. Don't worry about threads not looking nice. Just do a single thread. It will work. Trust me. That was like probably one of the hardest parts of this tutorial, and now it's pretty downhill from here. So next step, what you're gonna do is you're gonna sew 2 pouches. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your 2 little hamburger thingies and you're gonna sew along those edges that I had you pin. So you're gonna sew just, I don't know, 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch seam allowance, up to you I guess, and just sew along the pinned side and the bottom, and that's it. There you go. Okay, that was easy. Okay, so now you should have 2 pouches, which are basically as good as the ones that they give you in the Dice Masters game, which basically means they're crap. So you should probably work on make these better. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna box the corners. Boxing the corners is what is going to give our dice bag a nice square bottom so that it will sit and stand up all on its own. Hey, lay down. Come on. We're gonna do this 4 times. We're gonna do this to each corner of our pouches. And so yeah, you're gonna get really good at boxing corners by the end of your 1 dice bag. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna pop a corner. So pick a corner. This is the corner you're gonna work on. Okay, so pinch both sides of the fabric and then pop the corner open. The first corner I would suggest you do is the one between the 2 sewn sides that you just did, because this is easier and you'll understand better, and having seamed edges help. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna pop that corner open and then you're gonna match the 2 seamed edges together. And so the 2 sewn edges should line up and you should try and get them as close as you can. And then if you have an iron, go ahead and press this corner down so that those seamed edges are touching and pressed together. I don't iron, like I said, because I'm lazy and I couldn't find it, and you don't really need to iron, but it helps a lot. Either way, you're gonna pin this edge down to keep your seams together. And then you're going to lay your corner down flat on a table, and then you're gonna measure and make a little triangle. So with a ruler, just go ahead and measure a 2-inch base on the bottom of the triangle. This is kind of weird to explain, but so if the top of the corner is the top of the triangle, then you are going to be making like a base of a triangle with your ruler, and that base needs to be 2 inches long. So you need to measure so that the center of those 2 inches is right on that seam that you have, the seam on the bottom of the bag, and then just go ahead and draw a nice straight line using the ruler, and that line should be 2 inches long. That's really hard to explain. I'm glad I shot video. You're gonna do this 4 times. You're gonna do this for every corner of your bag. Once you've done, you should have all 4 corners pinned in this like thing, and then you should have 4 lines across all your corners. Now you're just gonna sew along your pencil lines. So you're just gonna do 4 seams really quickly across all 4 of your pencil lines and just sew those up really quick. There you go. Now this is probably the maybe scariest part of this entire thing, because you're gonna cut. So to cut, what you do is you just cut above the seam line. You want to give yourself a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so just cut a 1/4 of an inch from your seam line to cut off the triangle that I was talking about earlier. And once you do this, you should have successfully boxed the corners. If you want to test to make sure that you boxed your corners right, you go ahead and flip the bag inside out, and you should see that you have this nice finished boxed corner edge, and you can sit it down and it'll stand up on its own, and it's super awesome. And you just successfully boxed corners, which is fantastic. So yeah, do that for all of your corners, and yeah, you'll now have 2 nice pouches that can stand up on their own, and basically you're halfway done. Now we're just gonna put those 2 pouches together to make our lined dice bag. To put them together, go ahead and reverse one of your pouches so that the right side is now facing out and the wrong side is inside. The other pouch, you wanna keep the wrong side facing out, so the right side is inside. Then you're gonna take that pouch that you flipped inside out and you're going to put it inside the other pouch. So So you should be putting the right sides of your two pouches together. You should put the pouches together so that those lapel things that you made earlier line up nicely, and everything should just line up and look nice and be cool, and your edges should line up, and make sure you get your corners all lined up and matched up together. And yeah, now your dice bags have met, and it was a glorious introduction, and now you're just gonna sew them together permanently whether they like it or not. Now you're just gonna go ahead and pin along the top edge of your dice bag. So do not pin to the lapel thing sides thing. Like, don't go down there and pin that. Just don't. All you're gonna be pinning and sewing is the very, very top of your dice bag. So go ahead and pin it and then do a quick seam around that. And like I said, 1/4 inch seam allowance, maybe 1/2 inch. I always do 1/4 because I like it better. Wastes less fabric, something, something. So yeah, go ahead and do a quick seam all along that. It is super important that you do not sew down the lapel side thingies that we made earlier because, well, it's super important. And it's super important because once you sew the top of your bag together, just along that top edge, you're gonna go ahead and flip the bag inside out. And to do that, you're gonna flip it out through the side lapel hole thing that now exists. Once you've flipped it inside out through that hole, you should see that you have a nice like edge seamed thing that's really pretty from that thing that you just sewed, and now it's awesome. Now that you've tested that and seen the marvel of your abilities, you're gonna go ahead and put one of those pouches inside the other again. So you're going to basically make your dice bag look like a dice bag. So put the lining inside the outside, and you should now have both right sides facing out and the wrong sides should be together for once and for all. Till fire or dismemberment do they part. Now we're gonna make the cord channel, which is the channel that you're gonna put your cord in. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna pin down the sides of the lapels that I told you not to pin down earlier, but now you're gonna do it. So you're gonna pin down the sides of the lapels, and then you're gonna pin along the top edge again, except for you're gonna pin about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch, depending on how big your cord is, down from the top. So if you need to make your top edge nicer, you can iron it, but like I said, I never iron. You're gonna pin about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch down from your top edge. How big you make that channel depends on how big your cord is. If you want some more room for your cord because your cord's thicker, just go ahead and do a 3/4 inch. If your cord's really thin, like maybe yarn or something, you could probably get away with a 1/2 inch. It's up to you. If you want to be more scientific about how big your edge should be, just go ahead and lay your cord down on top of your edge, figure out how big you want the channel to be, and then pin according to that. So now you should have pinned down your lapels, and you should have pinned all the way around the top edge of the bag about, we're just gonna say a 3/4 inch down from the top. Now you're gonna sew it. So this is really important. You're gonna start at the base of one of the lapels. You're gonna go up to your pinned line, which should be 3/4 inch from the top of the bag. Then you're gonna turn a corner, and then you're gonna sew around the top of your bag all the way around to the other lapel, and then you're gonna turn again and then go down that lapel to the base. So once you finish, you should have a nice completely sewn dice bag. You should have this nice channel that you've made. Your lapel holes should be completely closed, and you shouldn't have to worry about any ends of frayed fabric showing, because if you did your lapels correctly, yeah, you'll have like nice hemmed seams, closed edges everywhere. The last step is pretty easy. Go ahead and take your drawstring, whatever material you used, pin a safety pin onto the end of it, and then use that safety pin to thread that string through your drawstring channel. This safety pin technique helps a lot if you ever lose a drawstring, like on a hoodie or a pair of shorts. This is a very easy way to get that drawstring back in. The safety pin makes it so you can easily move the string through the fabric channel, and like it saves, you don't have to have like crazy long nails or magic powers or something like that. So yeah, safety pins. This is the trick for doing that. Now you know. Once you've threaded your drawstrings through, go ahead and make them even, tie a simple knot, and then cut off any excess drawstrings that you have. Because I'm using paracord to fix the frayed edges with paracord or nylon or other drawstring things, you can just cut them and then use a match or lighter or some other fire thing to burn/melt the end of the paracord so you get nice finished edges that are nice and won't fray. And with that, you have finished a beautiful, lovely dice bag. Be proud of yourself, marvel at its majestic capabilities of holding things, flip it inside out to just like amaze and wow yourself at the fact that you made something that was fully reversible and fully lined, and there's no like weird openings or unseamed edges or things like that. And yeah, just remember that you made this and it's awesome. If you want to make a bigger bag, you can just use this tutorial and larger pieces of fabric to make a bigger bag. The only adjustments that you need to make is to the box corner thing. So instead of a 2-inch line that you're gonna be doing, you'll be making a bigger line. How square you want the bottom of your bag will change how long that line slash measurement is. So for example, this dice bag bottom, this edge right here is 3 inches and this edge is 2 inches. So it's, yeah, if you want a more square bag, you could make this edge 2.5 inches or 3 inches, but the bigger you make this line, the smaller this line gets. So yeah, I'm sure there's formulas and stuff for that online, but I guesstimated, so I think you could too. If you use this tutorial to make your own dice bag or any other bag kind of thing, please let me know. I would very much like to know if you use my tutorial and make bags. If you're on Twitter, you can send me a picture of the bag that you made on Twitter at TheOneTAR. If you don't use Twitter, feel free to email me a picture of your amazing dice bag, which is theonetar@gmail.com. So yeah, because I would really love it if people made dice bags and then we could show them and it would just be awesome. So there we go.